on October 4, 1823. The monastery of Santa Maria del Grozzi was abruptly shut down by order of the Austrian government. Reports from locals claimed that the monks inside the monastery had lost their minds after weeks of chanting their prayers without rest. And when the officials finally broke into the building, they found every single monk seated in the chapel in a state of catatomb, their mouths wide open. Not one of them was alive. To make things even stranger, wax had been poured into their ears, and in the abbot's journal a final note was scribbled. The voice beneath the altar must not be heard. What voice? What happened to the monks? And what was this place that could drive men insane? Hi everyone, I'm your host and welcome to this channel. Join me today as we look into the mysterious case of the silent monks of 1823. In the early 19th century, northern Italy was a hotbed of revolutionary activity, and by 1823 the Austrian Empire was eager to put down any potential rebellions before they began. Much to the chagrin of local clergy, the Austrians kept a close watch on monasteries and convents for fear that they would become safe houses for radicals. On September of 1823, the prior of a small Carthusian monastery in the Italian Alps, the Caransebe's Charterhouse, wrote to the Austrian government claiming that some of his monks had recently gone missing. He wrote that he feared that these monks had joined secret societies aimed at overthrowing the Austrian Empire. The letter reached the military governor of Belluno, who ordered that the monastery be searched. On October 4, 1823, a detachment of soldiers arrived at the monastery carrying a warrant to search the premises. They were met at the door by two monks who informed them that the rest of the community had retired for the day. Suspicious, the soldiers waited outside the door until around 7 p.m., but no sounds came out of the chapel. Soon, shouts and angry murmurs grew among the soldiers. Some wanted to break down the door right then and there. But Lieutenant Colonel Joseph Franz von Watzke argued against this, saying that they should wait until morning light so they wouldn't startle the poor fools inside. The following morning, the lieutenant colonel led a group of soldiers into the chapel, where the entire community of monks was supposed to be praying. What they found shocked them. Every single monk was seated motionless in his usual place during prayer, yet none of them were alive. Their mouths were all open in a silent scream. To make things even stranger, wax had been poured into each of their ear holes. It was obvious that these men had died sometime during the night before, but an investigation couldn't determine how. The incident caused an immediate sensation throughout Italy. Rumors spread that the monks had been poisoned, that they had been victims of a secret plot, or that perhaps they had been murdered by Satan himself. For centuries, the Caransebe's Charterhouse had stood peacefully in the mountains, but founded in 1366. It was home to a small community of eremitic monks who lived in solitude and prayed seriously. Eremitic monks take solemn vows of silence, devoting their lives entirely to God. They are typically found alone in cells deep within monasteries or tucked away in the wilderness. Though the Charterhouse was originally built near a busy road, over the centuries, development had moved away from it, leaving the monks in blissful solitude. In fact, the nearest neighbours to the Charterhouse were nearly half a mile away. When news of the dead monks reached the outside world, people came from miles around to see the site for themselves. Soon, the town of Belluno was swarming with civilians and journalists. Many reported hearing strange noises coming from the chapel, including the sound of footsteps, singing, and even voices in prayer. These reports only added to the mystery. How could the monks have been dead for days and still be making noise? Were they ghosts? Had the devil really taken hold of the monastery? The Austrian government sent a team of physicians to investigate, but they were unable to come up with any answers. One physician examined the bodies, finding no signs of foul play. They discovered that all of the monks had died from a peaceful expression of asphyxia, meaning that they had suffocated while asleep. But why? Other than the wax in their ears, which served to block any sounds reaching their inner ear, nothing else appeared unusual about the scene. Yet something had clearly caused the monks to stop breathing. A rumor quickly spread that the monks had been victims of a poisonous gas, perhaps leaking from a nearby mine or from volcanic vents in the ground. While such a phenomenon is rare, it has occurred before. In 1986, 29 miners died in a coal mine in Turkey when pockets of carbon dioxide gas seeped into their workplace. Similarly, in 1970, 43 cattle died in Scotland due to an unknown toxic gas. However, this explanation doesn't account for how the gas would have specifically targeted only the monks inside the chapel. Additionally, witnesses reported that the air inside the monastery smelled faintly of almonds, which is a sign of cyanide poisoning, though there was no evidence that any cyanide was present in the monastery. Another theory held that the monks were victims of mass hysteria. This occurs when a person experiences a psychological or physiological issue that spreads to others through suggestion and imitation. In 1979, a similar event occurred at a school for girls in Hong Kong. A teacher became ill with a sudden onset of seizures and paralysis. Within a few months, 100 students had also fallen ill with similar symptoms. Eventually, it was concluded that the illness was transmitted through mass hysteria. Similar outbreaks have occurred throughout history, sometimes accompanied by more dramatic physical symptoms, such as levitating or speaking in tongues. Although such theories may seem far-fetched, instances of mass hysteria and other mental illnesses spreading through communities are well documented. But is that what happened here? The facts surrounding the case don't support this theory either. As the leader of the Austrian forces investigating the monastery, Lieutenant Colonel von Watzke grappled with the mystery. His official report on the incident stated that, in spite of the officers and doctors examining the corpses carefully, no trace of poison or other cause of death could be found. The bodies were buried, the chapel was locked, and the Karansabes Charterhouse was officially abandoned. But the story doesn't end there. In the years since the incident, rumors of the silent monks have persisted, attracting the attention of paranormal investigators and curious travelers alike. Some claim that the voices can still be heard echoing through the ruined monastery, growing louder until it feels like they're coming from inside your own head. Others believe that the site is cursed, causing anyone who investigates the ruins to go insane. Now, let us take a moment to consider the possibility that these rumors might actually have some truth to them. Perhaps the monks weren't killed by poison or disease, but rather by something more sinister. Let's assume that the voice mentioned in the abbot's journal did exist. Was it a demonic presence that drove the monks to their deaths? Or perhaps it was the voice of a long-dead former monk warning them of some danger, such as a landslide or a flood. Why else would he have written that the voice beneath the altar must not be heard? Could the voice have driven the monks insane, causing them to stop breathing and die as a result? Or was it something more sinister still? Ultimately, we may never know for sure what truly happened at the Karen Sabers Charterhouse. The silence of the monks is a chilling reminder of the mysteries that still exist in our world. And the rumors of their haunting continue to attract those brave enough to listen. So, do you believe that the silent monks are still haunting the monastery ruins? Let us know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this episode and want to hear more stories like it, be sure to subscribe. And as always, thanks for watching.